Okay, welcome back as we continue our discussion on adjective clauses. All right, so we're still talking about adjective clauses. Now we're going to talk about, so far we've talked about adjective clauses in formal writing. Okay, in English class we are learning formal English. That's important. Okay, we're learning about formal English. However, this is really important because adjective clauses are used a little bit differently in casual conversation, and we're going to go through that. They're actually a little easier to use in casual conversation, but I do want you to understand the differences between casual conversation and formal English, which we need to learn how to write and communicate in as educated people. Okay, so in casual conversations, who and whom may be replaced by that. Okay, so when it's a person, even when it's a person, in casual conversation, oftentimes you're going to use that instead of who or whom, and that cuts down the complexity because then you don't have to remember which one is an object and which one is the subject. Okay, but in formal writing, of course, if it's human, we're going to use who or whom. That's important. But in casual conversation, they use that. And let me give you some examples here. It says the relative pronouns who and whom are often replaced by that. And let's see what they have here as for examples. It says, for example, in written English, you might see this more formal sentence. The reporter who covered the story has received numerous journalism awards. Okay, the reporter is human. Who covered? Oh, he did the action, so you use the subject who. Okay, but in casual conversation, you'd probably hear something like this. The reporter that covered the story has received numerous journalism awards. So in casual conversation, probably you're not going to have to distinguish between who or whom, only that you're just going to replace it with that. However, in your writing, I do want to see a distinction. I want formal English used in your writing, and I don't want improper English or what we would call conversational English used in your formal papers. All right, so we're going to have to learn to distinguish between who and whom. All right, however, this is important to know because when we use proper nouns, then we have to always, when the antecedent is a proper noun, then you must use whom or who. Okay, so for example, my Aunt Mary. Well, that's a proper noun. It's a specific aunt. You cannot say my Aunt Mary that you saw at the reception, because we don't talk. You would have to use a person pronoun. Okay, my Aunt Mary, whom you saw at the reception, asked about you. Okay, the Aunt Mary didn't do the seeing. She's the one that was saw. Okay, so she is the object of being seen. All right. So you would use the object whom. All right. And it says down here, of course, you wouldn't say this, my Aunt Mary that you saw at the reception. Okay. So that can be used if the antecedent is not a proper noun. All right. If it's a proper noun, capitalized, you would have to use who or whom. If it's not a proper noun and it's human, like computer scientist, or teacher, then you could use the noun that, because these are common nouns. Okay, common antecedents. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to the next section here. It says, however, if we use the common noun aunt, then you would most likely in conversation use the word that. The aunt that you saw at the reception asked about you. Okay, so it's no longer a proper noun, capitalized. It's common, even though it refers to a person, so I could use the word that. That's in conversations. Okay, it says, all of the following sentences are written in the informal conversational style. Rewrite the sentences in a more formal style by changing that to whom and whom where appropriate. If no change is necessary, write okay above that, above the word that. Okay, so let's take a look here if we can identify which register. Remember, we talked about registers, what language register we're going to use. we're using these are in the informal register. We want to change it to the formal language. Okay, so we certainly owe the staff that worked on the project a big thanks. Okay, we certainly owe the staff. Staff is human, so I need to decide if that is who or whom. Well, let's see if they do an action that worked on the project. Who worked on the project? The staff did, so it would have to be the subject who. We certainly owe the staff who worked on the project a big thanks. Okay, good. Now, it was all the proof that we needed. Okay, the proof is not human, so that is just fine. Okay, that is used, the relative pronoun that, because this is not human. Okay, we deserve the politicians that we elect to office. Okay, politicians is human. Now I need to, so I know it's human, so in formal writing I would either have to use who or whom. Let's take a look and see which one. Do they do the action, or is the action done to them? Well, let's see. We deserve the politicians that we elect. Well, we elect them. The politicians are receiving, they're getting the action, or they're being elected. Okay, the action's done to them. So I would have to use the object whom. Whom. So we deserve the politicians whom we elect to office. Okay, they're not doing the electing, we are. Okay, so you would use the object. Most Americans think the people that live in Texas are a little strange. Well, people is another human, all right, human thing. So we want to replace that with either who or whom. Now, once again, we need to decide if that is doing the action or if that is receiving the action. So let's take a look here. That live in Texas. Oh, okay. Are a little strange. Now, most Americans think that the people that live in Texas. Well, who's living in Texas? The people are living in Texas, so who would be used? Okay, who live in Texas are a little strange. Okay, they are doing the action of living, so it had to be the subject. Okay, subject is doing the action. All right, so I would erase that and put who. Let's do one more together. This is actually not too difficult, so follow along, and then you can finish the rest on your own after number 5. The few pedestrians that we saw out were whatever. The few pedestrians that we saw out were all dressed in heavy jackets. Okay, so the few pedestrians is human, they're people. So we need to decide if that is who or whom. Are they doing the action, or are the action being done to them? The few pedestrians that we saw. Well, did the pedestrians see, or did we see? We saw, so that would have to be the object whom. The few pedestrians that, the few pedestrians whom we saw out were all dressed in heavy jackets. Okay, so I'll go ahead and finish the next 15 of these. There's 15 of them total. Go ahead and finish the next 15. Once again, if you have questions, please come in and see me before or after school, and I will help you out. Remember, to clarify, we use who or whom in formal writing, and that is used for when it refers to a person, is used in conversational writing, such as they're using here. They identified all the voters as people. In formal writing, we'd have to use who or whom, but because it's informal, they use that. They identified all the voters that we thought were most likely to actually turn out. So we're replacing the that with the formal who or whom. All right? If it does the action, it's who. If the subject is receiving the action or not doing the action, it's whom. Okay? So in this one, they identified all the voters that we thought were most likely to actually turn out. Well, did the voters do the thinking? Or did someone else do? Well, we thought. So the voters are not doing the thinking. So whom? It's the object. Whom? They identify all the voters whom we thought were most likely to actually turn out. So good luck, like I said, and I'll see you in the next video.